Joining us to analyze today's headlines is Robert Jensen. He's an author and a professor of journalism at the University of Texas at Austin. Hi, Bob.
Hello, Sonali.
Republican presidential candidate Jeb Bush has put his foot in his mouth, adding the ire of another minority community. In an event in McAllen, Texas yesterday, he was confronted about his use of the racist term anchor babies. He stumbled and then blurted, "What I was talking about was the specific case of fraud being committed where there's organized efforts. Frankly, it's more related to Asian people coming into our country, having children in that organized effort, taking advantage of a noble concept which is birthright citizenship," end of quote. His rival Donald Trump, who spearheaded the use of the term in this campaign, gleefully blasted him on Twitter, saying, quote, "In a clumsy move to get out of his anchor babies dilemma, where he signed that he would not use the term and now uses it, he blamed Asians." Democratic congressional representative Linda Sanchez from California wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post headlined, "When it comes to the politics of immigration, the GOP's candidates are sinvergüenzas, shameless." Well, Bob, do you agree with Sanchez's characterization?
Well, I think these folks are going to have to work to get up to the level of shameless. I don't think they're there yet. There's something bizarre when Donald Trump tells you you're not racist in the right way, I guess, is what this reduces to. I mean, what we should remember is immigration politics is always about race politics. And to some degree, it's also about wealth politics. You know, why might people want to have children in the U.S.? Because apparently every now and then someone does travel to the U.S. hoping their child will be born here. It's about the disproportionate share of wealth we have in the United States. You know, this is always and always will be a stand-in politics, not about real issues, but about what people are afraid of.
A black women's book club is claiming that they were unfairly removed from a wine train in Napa, California over the weekend. The 11 women were apparently enjoying themselves on the train when train authorities escorted them off, saying that they were laughing and talking too loudly. The women were refunded for their tickets. One of the group's members, Lisa Johnson, who posted about the incident on her Facebook, said, quote, "All we were guilty of is hashtag laughing while black." Johnson said, quote, "That was the most humiliating and embarrassing thing I've ever experienced in my life, to be paraded through all those cars, all those passengers looking at us, wondering what we do that was so bad that we were being escorted off that train." End of quote. The group, calling itself Sisters on the Reading Edge Book Club, were met by police officers at the St. Helena station where they were dumped. Napa Valley wine train spokesperson disagreed that the women were kicked off because of their race. He told press, "No, it's not racism, it's acute insensitivity." Bob, what do you make of this story? I wonder if a group of 11 white women might have been treated in this manner.
Well, excuse me, when I first thought about this story, I thought about Richard Pryor. So if I break into my imitation of Richard Pryor imitating uptight white people, bear with me here, because I think Pryor did really nail this. This is a question, I think, not only of race, but of class and who gets to define public space. White people, especially white people with money, have always assumed that we get to define the nature of public space. And when other people, quote unquote, other people, come in and say, listen, this is public space, and we are going to enjoy that space, there's a pushback. So this is about race. Of course, it's about race. It's also about class. It's about the way that people who have long felt entitled to define public space, that is, people who look like me, get really, really nervous when others claim that right as well.
And finally, economists are still anxious about the stock market after Chinese stocks dramatically plunged yesterday on what was dubbed Black Monday. The U.S. stock market did recover this morning, and the Washington Post described the rebound, saying, quote, "The sharp start marked the first encouraging news after several days of chaotic trades in which many large U.S. companies lost billions of dollars in market value amid a global sell-off." But the news in China has remained dire. One Chinese analyst based in Shanghai told the press, "At the moment, there's panic in the market because we have lots of retail investors. We've never experienced anything like this in China's stock market, the speed of the decline and the scale of it." Well, Bob, for the rest of us who never made billions or trillions on China's manufacturing boom, this all seems very abstract. How can we lose something we never had to begin with? But we will all be affected nonetheless if this keeps up, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're all in the stock market in some sense if we have any kind of savings or pension. Everyone understands that our own futures are sort of tied into this. But I think going back to your fundamental point is important. What is value? I mean, they say that billions of dollars of market value were lost overnight, but what do we mean by value? An economy, remember, is supposed to care for people. It's supposed to be the way we produce and distribute and consume goods and services. But so much of our economy has nothing to do with what people need. This is a reminder that we're all in this globalized world exposed, even if we don't endorse the values underlying it. So yes, it's a problem, but it's a problem in a bigger sense that the whole economy is this house of cards waiting to topple.
Bob, thanks as always for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Sonali.
Robert Jensen is an author and a professor of journalism at the University of Texas at Austin. He's our daily Newsflash guest expert. And by the way, if you miss any of our interviews, you can catch them at our website, uprisingwithsonali.com. We'll be right back.